Hey everyone, so in this video I wanted to discuss a few boss fights that I think are underrated from the Batman Arkham series. Now before we get into it, I just want to say this is in no particular order, so if my number one is one that you think isn't as good as my number 5, then it's just purely like what's come to my head first. It's not like ranked specifically. This is just the top 5 that I think are the most underrated, and if I miss one that you think is underrated, let me know in the comments. So at number 5, this one I will say is ranked because I think that it does get a lot of love, but I actually think it deserves more, and that's the Solomon Grundy fight from Arkham City. Now this fight does get quite a bit of love, however I do actually think it deserves more because it was pretty early on in Arkham City when we encounter Solomon Grundy, and I feel like this set up the boss fights for the rest of that game and Origins as well, because you might not notice this that much, I'm sure a lot of you have. The Arkham games, especially after City, well, not really Night, but mainly City and Origins and Asylum to a lesser extent because it came before, they all revolve around usually dodging something, you know, throwing a weapon over and over, a weapon like a gadget over and over, whether that's, you know, freeze grenades or those electrical blasts or batarangs or anything. Like in this one it's your little explosive gel that you're running around, but this fight I actually think is really great because there's a lot going on. You have to, you know, when to get to the latter end of the fight, you know, you have his sort of electrical like currents that he's like putting on the floor that you have to jump over and avoid, yet you're still trying to put the explosive gel on the little things on the floor to blow them up. And of course you have to run in and beat him up, like, and you have to dodge his big ass weapon things I forgot the name of, but still there's a lot going on in this fight. And I think it isn't exactly, I wouldn't say it's distracting, but I would say that it is like there's a lot going on in this fight, but there's more going on in it than a fight like Ra's al Ghul or like other fights where spamming is used quite a bit, like the Deathstroke fight. No matter how good those fights are, there is a bit of spamming involved. And I think that this one involves you just to think a little bit more and just to, I guess, not try harder, but just maybe sort of like have an understanding of the fight before you head into it, because it sort of just chucks you into the fight. So I feel like this one is like, knowledge is something that's very important in this fight, even though it's a combat encounter, which could be said for a lot of the series. So for my next one, I wanted to talk about the Joker and Harley fight from Arkham Knight, the Matter of Family DLC. Now the reason I think this one is underrated is because a lot of people say that the boss fights in Arkham Knight are terrible, and they're not wrong, they are. But the ones the very few at least, that are combat encounters are actually not bad because of how refined the combat is in that game. And I think this is really, really underrated because we see a lot of, you know, different combat options for both the characters, let alone, you know, we get to play as them instead of Batman. We get to play as 2 new characters, not new, but like characters you don't get to play as in the story, with Robin and Batgirl. And I find like that whole DLC is a really fun experience, but that boss fight's a very nice way to end it off because we see more sort of classic looking Joker and Harley outfits. Even though their movesets are pretty limited, I do actually like them in like that sort of role quite a bit, seeing them a lot younger, and I guess you could say probably a little less, I guess, good at what they do. And something about that's a really cool concept to me. And just the whole setting of the fight is really nice. You have extra, you know, goons, extra, you know, thugs just around them, just being annoying as they always do, but they do sort of add to the fight. And as usual, I think that good Arkham fights have a lot going on, but not so much that you're sort of overwhelmed. Fights where it's just dodge something, throw something, they're not bad. There's a few that are really good like that, but they just lack something. But like I said with Solomon Grundy, when you have 3 or 4 sort of things going on at a time, but you're focused enough to be able to deal with it, I think it works pretty well, and the same could be said for this fight here. Now for this last one, a lot of people see it how I see it, and a lot of people give it recognition, but because of the game it's from, it doesn't really get a lot of love, and that's actually Firefly from Arkham Origins. Now I think that this fight is super, super great, and it is sort of towards the latter end of the game, but so maybe some people haven't experienced it, And unfortunately, I will say I've only been able to play through it a couple times, but even then, it's still, I can tell it's one of the best in the series because, like with the last two, the set piece and everything going on around it, the location of the fight is great, but also the fight itself is different. And this one isn't actually a combat encounter. This is, I guess, it's sort of like a traversal boss fight, if that even makes sense. But this one, again, like the location looks great. There's a lot going on, but you have to dodge things. You have to throw weapons. A lot of the boss fights in these games, like, unfortunately do revolve around spamming the same weapon, and I'd like them to change that at some point, but they actually sort of do in this one where, you know, you're throwing your freeze grenades, I believe, and then you use the back claw as well. So you're using at least a couple different gadgets instead of just spamming one over and over. So I like that they put a little bit more effort into that. Weird to mention, but the music during this is great as well. The music in the series is like consistently pretty good, I think, but this boss fight worked really, really well. And, you know, all the things that I just mentioned sort of culminate in maybe the best boss fight in Origins. I'd say maybe just shy of it. I'd say probably Deathstroke and Bane have the best boss fights in the game, but I would say Firefly might actually be a close second. Or, like, not second, I can't count, close third. But let me know if there's any boss fights from that game that I'm forgetting, because I could be forgetting another one that's, like, really good. With all that being said, I hope you guys were, you know, at least somewhat interested by that video. I do stream a few nights a week, so I'd love to see you guys there, you know, if you want to stop by. No pressure to, obviously, but if you just want to talk about whatever, feel free to join. And if you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more Batman Arkham videos. Thanks, everyone.
Don't clip that, please.